brain is left with literal blood flow. That's why unasikia kuzinzia. Sometimes naenda. But I hope it will not happen for now. Now, nitajibu maswali imekuja hapa. Very nicely done by our bishop. Na nitajaribu sana nijibu. Somebody is asking, like, hormonal imbalance treatment yake ni nini? Treatment ya hormonal imbalance. And most people tukiongea juu hormonal imbalance ni kumaanisha mtu hapati periods kawaida. In other words, ina skip. Unakuta na sio menopause. Unakuta miezi 2 hajapata, halafu inakuja. Miezi 3 hajapata, halafu inakuja. That's what is called hormonal imbalance. And usually is because hormones are not going according the ways they are supposed to go. For instance, I wrote for you progesterone and estrogen. They regulate each other. If you draw a graph, utakuta if I draw like it is cyclical, it goes like this, that way. For estrogen, utakuta progesterone nayo is opposite. So when this is high, this is low. Hivyo. So this progesterone, this is estrogen. And they are supposed to be cyclical like that, so that every month you get your period. But if one of them haitoki, it is not being produced kawaida, then you get problems in periods. And there is treatment for this. Usually the cause may be something, and I'm sure maybe you have heard about it, PCOS. That is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. It has a treatment. We treat it with drugs. Na unaanza kupata period kawaida. Usually if your period is not coming kawaida, you know, the normal way it's supposed to be, it can even be cause of infertility. In other words, you are not conceiving. And that, of course, brings problems in a family. So there is hope. There is treatment. So don't suffer alone silently that, oh, my period is not coming the way it's supposed to be. Just seek treatment na utapata. Okay? Diabetes, nutrition. That's the second question. Of course, there is, if you are diabetic, let me say diabetes ni high blood sugar. Okay? And high blood sugar or blood sugar in the blood is regulated by a hormone called insulin, produced by pancreas. Your pancreas is what produces insulin, and it's one that ukikura chakula sugar iende juu, insulin goes in to regulate it, and usually it keeps some of the fat, I mean the sugar, into fat. You know, fat, what you don't need is stored as fat. And so when there is no good sugar control, that's what we call diabetes. And diabetes is 2 types. One is type 1, which is you are born with, ulizaliwa nayo. Otherwise it starts from childhood, when you are a child, then it continues in adulthood. Type 2 diabetes is diabetes that comes when you are already an adult. and the pancreas is not producing all the insulin that's supposed to regulate, is no longer able to regulate your sugar properly. So that is type 2 diabetes. And usually diabetes is a disease you can live with and control. That's a control through diet. When in some hospitals they have nutritionists where you are advised how to eat well and eat what is necessary. Some of the starches you are supposed to kula kidogo, uache zingine ukule more protein than starch or carbohydrates, and not like that. And therefore it's a disease you can actually live with and control very well. Then there is the third question here is saying bisexual children. Bisexual children meaning they have both gender. In other words, what we call the physical features. When a child is born, we give that gender at that particular time. That is why I said you can tell a child who is a boy by just looking at the genitalia, or a girl by looking at the genitalia. But sometimes they appear to be both, because most of the things you see in the genitals, at the very beginning, when that child is growing, they are the same, whether it's a boy or a girl. Zingine ni close na close. For instance, when we look at the woman's genitals, what we call the labia or the lips, ikubwa, is the same thing in a male. That's what becomes the cover for the testes. It closes the testes. So that is the labia for women, the closure for testes for men. So there are sometimes unakuta things are not going the way they are supposed to go. So unakuta they are the same. I mean, they are gender, both gender genitals are there. Recently I had a girl who came to my office, and she has also traveled to many places, and that is why sometimes it's important to be examined. This girl is about 23, and she has never had periods. So she has gone to other places, clinics, anapewa madawa. I don't know what happened. The doctors, whoever saw her first, didn't examine. And you know what I found is that usually this part of the uterus, the tubes, they start, when the child akatakuwa a girl, the tubes, they come together, they touch each other, this end and this end, and they form the uterus. Ingine inabaki, ingine inabaki. And then, from here up to a third, the first for the birth canal or the vagina, here, it grows from this side, from above. And then from here down, we call it 2/3, grows from below. And then it's zinashikana, and then it opens. You understand? So what had happened with this girl is that this part grew, but this part did not develop. So in other words, you are finding a vagina that is blind ending like this. Hakuna kitu na connect na huko juu. And the uterus also did not develop. So those things are common, and they are not common, but they are rare. But it is good to know that that is how it develops. And you can have a problem along that development. Tunasikia sasa huyu hana uterus, so it did not develop. And for that particular one, there is nothing you can do unless sasa akitaka. The other features are a woman akona breast, akona kila kitu, but huko haikudevelop. Is akitaka watoto sasa huyo ni wa kuadopt, not wake lakini wa kuadopt. Number 4, lack of response or sexual response by a wife while husband is in need. And this is what I was saying. This is mismatched, libidos. Libido is what makes you the desire to want to have sex. Unakuta one person has libido, the other one is slow. It may be sometimes family planning. Some family planning methods I mentioned, like the sindano, the implants, they cause a woman not to have that urge. Yeah? And sometimes just because of tiredness, it's not that it's sickness. Kuchoka tu, mama amekuwa na kazi nyingi kwa chamba nini. So you find that unless sasa wasikizane na mzee, inakuwa shida. But in case they have that, people have that kind of problem, ku agree to, because it's not good for a man to do just ajienjoy tu, na the wife is like hata hayuko, unaona. So it is important for both to agree, and even that is what the Bible teaches. Don't deny each other that right. Yeah, that's what Paul was teaching. He was saying that don't deny each other, but agree among yourself. Even when, when people are fasting, of course you are fasting against many things, not just food. Even you are fasting also for such kind of pleasure. So just agree. So you can't have a man fasting and the wife is not fasting. You fast both of you, if possible. All right? And then age limit of pregnancy. In other words, what is the age limit of having children? I say, for that one, I say it's any age above 40. It's usually okay if you have to have a child, but if possible, get your children when you're young. The best time for you to get children, and I hope I saw when Mrs. Bishop asked how many are over 40. Almost 3/4 of the people here raise their hands. And I don't know whether we are having younger ladies now, because the best time to have children is when you are in the 20s. Between 20 and 30. Because that is when your body responds very well to carrying a baby. Then when you come to above 30, especially from 35, actually the fertility for women starts declining from age 35. Unakuta if your fertility was going up like this, it plateaus, then starts declining. At that point, when it starts declining, is 35 years. But what are we finding these days? We are finding that women, because of their career and education, particularly, people are finishing first degree when they are in 21, 22 currently. So say go back, do masters, and usually sometimes people want to earn a bit of living. So they have, by the time they are going for masters, they are in the 30s. or late 20s. So saa hiyo haja kutana na Mr. Right. Yeah. Then if they go on to do PhD, they are almost towards 37, 30, whatever. It becomes very late. But I think people are chasing two things at the same time. They are chasing career, to be empowered, but at the same time, then family becomes the victim. Raising a family becomes the problem. Yeah? If I may give an example of myself, I have a daughter-in-law. They got married 3 years ago or so. Immediately after marriage, she went for masters in Europe, and she came back last year. And then shortly after, now she's gotten another scholarship to go and do PhD. Na hawana mtoi. Unaona? So she's going for PhD, although it is 6 months. She's just crocked past 40. Eh? So I'm a worried man. Hey. I'm a worried man. Then I'm a father of 2 boys, the husband of this leader I'm talking about. And my firstborn is also a boy. He has a family. My daughter, who is in between, hana bwana. Na she's a very good Christian, you know. Huyo, hata I can vouch for her. That lady is still a virgin. She has gone to Europe, akasoma masters, amefanya kazi na WHO as a consultant. All those good things, but no child. I mean, no family. And that is another area I'm suffering also. A daughter who is not getting a husband. So these are issues that we have to deal with. But sometimes tunashindwa ni sisi tuliwalea vibaya na ni vizuri tuliwalea vizuri in church. And one time one of our one of our ministers, unfortunately late now, he was even a moderator of General Assembly, the late Dr. Njogu. He preached in our church, St. Andrews, and he said, boys hawakuwa wanaona girls, and they are all in the youth. Akawaambia nyinyi, don't think that your brothers and sisters. You get married to each other. And from that time, they started seeing one another, and several marriages were done. So, it is important. Okay, so age limit of pregnancy, you can go up to 40. The oldest I've delivered myself, it was 44 years. But it's because early in her life, she had lost like 7 pregnancies. But that is the only one she got. After that, hakuna mwingine alikuja. Then number 5 or 6, 5, extraordinary size in pregnancy. I don't know what that meant. Extraordinary size. Is it the size of the tumbo? I don't know who asked that question. Because sometimes unakuta the tumbo is too big. It could be several things. One, the pregnancy is not one. I mean the children she's carrying. Multiple. Twins, even triplets. We have delivered triplets. And usually that pregnancy becomes too large. Yeah? When you look at the person physically, it's too huge. Number two, it also sometimes means the fluid that covers the baby, called amniotic fluid, what breaks when a child is being born, is too much. We call it hydramnios in medical terms. And it is usually caused by other things, like even diabetes causes that, being diabetic. So either the fluid is too much or the person is carrying multiple. So the doctor can do ultrasound and find out what is happening, because we are able to see the fluid is too much even by ultrasound. The other part of that question was identify sex of baby. This is very easy. These days tunafanya ultrasound from, depending on how complicated the machine is. Kuko na ile machine inaitwa 2D, 3D, 4D. 4D is by far the best, and you are able to see the gender of the baby, even complications that may be there. For instance, if you have found children who are born with a cleft lip, the lips didn't close, a cleft palate, you are able to see all that with the scan. So you are able to tell the mother that your baby will be born with this problem. I had a very bad complication of a pregnancy where this mother, the people you tell, please come, you do scan, anakuwa reluctant. Na si ati hana pesa, just like that. So we went on to delivery, and she was to have a cesarean because she had another previous cesarean. So during delivery is when we discovered that the spine at the back didn't close. It's called spina bifida. And they usually do operation within the first few hours of delivery. You are coming from operating the mother, and the baby has to go for an operation, to jaribu ku close the spine. And eventually that operation took too long, and they spent a lot of money, almost 1 million shillings for the baby, and eventually the baby didn't survive. So currently I'm following her on, she wants another child, and there is a way we normally tell them to use some dawa to prevent that happening again, the closure of the spine. So it is very easy, but make sure that you have scan, ultrasound. I recommend usually first, I wrote trimesters here. You get a scan around here, first trimester, second trimester, another scan, and another scan, if you are able to do that. And you come up, the baby will come out, you know everything about that child. How to increase estrogen level. Unfortunately, estrogen level is not something that you can just increase. The ovary is what produces estrogen. Now it produces estrogen through another hormone which comes from the brain, called pituitary gland. Pituitary gland produces follicle-stimulating hormone, is what now goes to the ovary to make it produce estrogen. So if we want to find out how much of estrogen you are producing, or if you have a what we call hormonal imbalance, that is what we measure. We measure follicle-stimulating hormone and estrogen. So in other words, you find estrogen is down, but follicle-stimulating hormone is up, which shows that it is trying to challenge the ovary to produce more and more, but is not responding. In menopause, that is the scenario we find. If you do your levels, you'll find that follicle stimulating hormone is up and estrogen is down. Yeah, so that's the scenario. So you can't increase by taking, unless you do it by pill. The family planning pill is what has estrogen. In the menopause with back pain, yes, there is something I didn't mention, that one of the side effects of menopause again is demineralization. I don't know whether you understand by that term. Demineralization of your bones. Unakuta, the bones become like porous. They can break easily. That's why you find old ladies wakianguka fujika. It's because the bones do not have calcium to make it strong. So that is is a big problem. It's called osteoporosis. The fact that calcium becomes less in the bone, and you can break your bones very easily. But you can take supplements, calcium, tablets to help you. Back pain, you see the fact that there is demineralization of the back, of the bones generally everywhere. That's when you find old people, especially ladies, they tend to bend because of that pain. Yeah? It happens when they bend, they skill a bit better, maybe at that angle. Then the pain continues a little bit more, they bend more, and they keep going. Because when they bend, they feel a bit better. Yeah. But that comes with age also. Coil, number 7, question number 7 is coil with discharge of blood. A coil, I didn't mention that it's a coil is something that we put and sits right here, right in the uterus, Dani. And we leave a string up here in the cervix. Ile tutatumia kufuruta hiyo coil when we are removing it. But sometimes if it is left a little bit, the string is a bit longer, the husband may start complaining that nasikia kitu inamdunga, and it is not very good. So we normally cut it very short. Kitambo, when we were in school, early in school, they used to teach that you leave the string long so that this mama can put a finger and feel the strings. Anajua coil bado iko. But we stopped teaching that. We normally we cut kidogo short, because if one wants to find out whether the coil is there, ultrasound is the best thing. Because when you start introducing fingers, you actually cause infection. You have nails, they are not clean. Then you cause infection. Umekuwa kwa shamba, umeoga kidogo mkono, unaingiza huko, sasa inaleta shida. It's not good. So that blood discharge should be investigated. The coil per se does not cause cancer. Because there are some people who assume that coil causes cancer. It doesn't. But it should be investigated by the doctor to find out why the blood discharge is there. By just looking, we just look from the cervix coming outwards, and we can tell you it is the cervix that has a problem, or it has or some other injury huko ndani. So other causes of fallopian tube blockage, almost 90% of the cause of the tubes blockage is infection, previous, not current. Somebody who had either gonorrhea or chlamydia, even in youth when they are in school, and then of course continues on in life and gets married, they cannot get children. When they come, we do a test called HCG or HSG, and that HSG is you are given, there's something that is put here in the cervix to block, and then they put dawa inside here, liquid, with a syringe, and then to try to come out through the tubes, and the doctor who is doing the x-ray can see the flow, how it is going. If it reaches a stage where it's not moving forward and he's still pushing, that means that tube is blocked at that particular site. Yeah, so the causes are usually infection, 90-something%. The others is maybe maumbile, kama nimesema, a lady who came with no communication. The vagina is not directly communicated to the above. Those things, you can have a lady who doesn't have part of the tube or the tubes. Na ni maumbile tu alizaliwa hivyo. Firstborn died and no other conception. What could be the problem? That one should be investigated. As I said, anakuja tunafanya HSG hivyo, tuna find out what the tubes, are they open or they are closed. Usually ni tubes inaleta shida kama hizo. By the way, not just women, men also have a problem, and we find occasionally men are the cause. In a situation where a couple is not getting children, this is the percentage that we see. 60%, 50%, 55%, it could be the lady who has a problem. But all the way to 40% is the man who has an issue. So don't blame yourselves, because this is usually the case. I find that when a lady comes and the issue is no conception, and you can feel the ladies defending their husbands. Anasema, najua ni mimi niko na shida. Unamuuliza kama unajuaje? 40% is contributed by the man. And the issues of having children before, because that's how they defend themselves. Men wanna defend themselves that, oh, see, I have children. If not from this woman outside there, ati anajua akona mtoto ama watoto. Naulizanga, who knows the father of a child? The man or the woman? The woman is the one who knows who the father of that child is. Not the man. Unaweza kuambiwa wewe hii mimba ni yako na si yake, mama anajua. And sometimes men, we are raising children who are not ours, and because ulidanganywa na ukakubali. Yeah, so the issue that akona watoto nje, I dismiss it usually, and I tell them they have to come to the clinic, agaliwe, apimwe. We normally pima semen, na semen si ati inatolewa na sindano, so kitu ati anasikia uchungu, yeah, akienda lab anaambiwa tu vile atafanya na anatoa, inapimwa. The sperm count, normally the normal sperm count is between 40 and 270 million per ejaculation. So if he's producing 30, hiyo ni kidogo. 30 million, sio 30 million. Hiyo ni kidogo. For ladies, they are producing one egg And a man is producing 40 to 270 million to fertilize a woman. Nature is so extravagant. Yeah. Okay, firstborn died. Preventing heavy periods. Any drugs? You see, heavy periods is just a symptom. And normally we say we don't treat symptoms, we treat the disease. So first of all is to make a diagnosis. Why? What is causing heavy periods? Number one cause of heavy periods is uterine fibroids. Something you must have heard people talk about. Now it is common these days. It's very, very common. Uterine fibroids are swellings, benign, not cancerous. Zinakujanga huko kwa uterus huko. Particularly, there are three types. One that comes into the womb huko ndani. They are called subserous, submucous. Huko na zingine zinakujanga huko katikati muscle layer. They are called intramural. And then kuna zingine zinakujanga huko juu hivi, juu ya uterus. They are the commonest cause of heavy periods. And fibroids, how do you get fibroids? Failure to conceive. We tell people like this, wanafikiria tunataka watu wazae, but that is the cause. If you have from the time you started having periods, you have always had this estrogen without break by progesterone. When you are pregnant, progesterone is the hormone that is predominant in you, in your blood. So in other words, since you are born, now ufike adolescence, you have had estrogen. You are now 30, 40, huko. So fibroids come. Because you have never broken that cycle with progesterone. And progesterone is when you are pregnant. So when we say fibroids are caused by lack of getting babies, we are serious. It is the cause. Yeah, because the fuel, ile kitu in what you can call the petrol that can light the fire, it is the estrogen. And you can't do without it because it's being produced in your ovaries. Sio kitu naweza sema sitaki hiyo estrogen. So that is usually the cause of uterine fibroids, and they cause very heavy periods. Treatment is usually medical, which is very little of it, and then surgery. We go in there depending on your desire for children in the future. We either remove the fibroids themselves one by one, or we remove the uterus. Because if they are too many and they have damaged your uterus, because sometimes we find a heavily damaged uterus, the easiest operation is to remove the uterus itself, which we normally remove from here. Cut through here, like that. This part goes, this part and this part, we join. Tunafunga huko juu. So that this is another fallacy. You find men don't know what happens when their wives have had hysterectomy. That's removal of the uterus. They think that they will not enjoy anymore, which is a fallacy. It is there is nothing we do to shorten. The vaginal length still remains. I hope you understand. Sabab, I had a couple who, I don't know whether the husband was not involved in the first place about his wife going for hysterectomy. Akaenda hysterectomy, akatolewa. Then the husband starts behaving funny when she was now back home. Alianza na wanaangalia pande different kwa kitanda. They are facing wrong side, this side, now this side. Then after some time, this husband, and they are living in these posh estates, Lavington. They are to work on a pesa. The next time, the husband moved to the children's bedroom. Akaacha mama kwa master bedroom. Wakakaa. Then the next thing, the husband left the house. Kaenda akakoboa mahali ingine. Unaona? And that is all because he was not coached. He was not taken through. Who does it mean for a woman to have no hysterectomy? To have no uterus. Maybe this man thought mama ameharibiwa. Yeah, which is not true. Life continues. Okay, even without a uterus. What causes conjoined twins? Yeah, the so-called Siamese twins. Conjoined twins is when you have what we call identical twins. And normally what happens is that you'll find an egg has already been fertilized. It becomes one. It starts with one. When the sperm is already inside, it becomes like one unit. Then the next stage, it divides into two. The next stage, it divides into four. It goes multiplying like that. Then 8, this is 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, like that. So at some point, this division cuts that egg right in the middle. Something happens that cuts that developing egg into two. But instead of separating, this part separates differently, this part separates differently, they stay together. And grows, of course, continues. This side is developing a baby, this side is developing a baby. And you'll find that at some point, they come out attached at some point in the body. Either in the chest or in the head, because you can have attached in the hand, even back, that way. That is what is called conjoined twins. They are usually identical. In other words, they develop from a fertilized egg, fertilized by one sperm and one egg. Okay? Then splits. So gives identical twins. Fraternal twins, on the other hand, they are just like brother and sister or brother and a brother. It is from two eggs that each of them got fertilized. You see? And becomes twins. They are called fraternal, from the word brother. Gum pains during pregnancy or teeth, maneno ya teeth. People assume it's because of calcium that the baby is demanding. Unakuta meno inasikia pain. But we normally say that the best thing is you visit a dentist, but don't agree to have tooth removal unless it's very bad. If you go to a good dentist, they're able to conserve, and you carry on the pregnancy and you save your teeth. So the best thing is to visit a dentist. Underwent FGM and still have sharp pains, cervical pains. I think whoever asked this question, it is not cervix that pains, because cervix is right huko ndani. FGM is done out here. So if there is pain, it is not because of FGM. But FGM brings a lot of issues, particularly during delivery. is a very, very bad thing because of the tears that people get when giving birth. And it's very difficult to stitch back the way it was. So you have a lot of problems for us. We are delivering such a woman, and they have a lot of complications. So I discourage kukeketwa kwa ladies kabisa, but we find it's very still being done in some communities. We have, especially the pastoralists all over, whether it is northeastern, Garissa, Orias, Boranas, all those people of huko northeastern, some parts of Nyanza, particularly among the Kuria and coast. Those are the areas that are affected by FGM, even at this particular age. And the few Walia girls I have, I tell them, please don't do that to your daughters, because it is usually very hideous. So, growth in left shoulder. Left shoulder, I don't know where this growth is, but if it is something that is visible, it's usually something we call lipoma. A fat develops in a certain place, it becomes encapsulated, it looks a swelling. So it's usually not dangerous, but for somebody to make a diagnosis, you have to visit a doctor. Aone ni nini hiyo inafura huko kwa shoulder. Ultrasound done and has lymph. You know, maybe whoever asked this question meant lymph node. Lymph node. They usually, we call them in Kikuyu guy. I don't know whether you know. You know guy? They are all over, even in animals. When you kichija buzi, ama ng'ombe unakuta, they are there. They are part of body. But if they are swollen, it means that there is some infection. For instance, if you have a wound along the foot, you'll have guy here, right there. And that's because it's correcting the lymph. Lymph is like blood, but flows through other pathways in the body. Okay, so they are normal, and they're swollen. Uterus removed, still has persistent pain. This lady should see her gynecologist to find out why there is pain. Otherwise, after uterus is removed, and if it was removed because of pain, there should be no pain. Number 16, can placental size matter during delivery? Usually placenta does not come, if it is not below here, up to here, it's not down this way, it's usually above. And the baby is usually above, the placenta is above the baby. So the baby will come, then you deliver placenta. If it is too large, it may show some infection. Like if you have syphilis, which you would have discovered during antenatal period, the placenta tends to be very large. Or sometimes diabetes can also cause very large placenta. Okay. Recurrent infection, pain during urination, that is called UTI. That is a very simple thing to do. You come to the clinic and you have your urine tested, and we are able to know what kind of bacteria is affecting you. And when it is recurrent, again we normally tend to say we don't just treat you as our patient, but we treat your husband as well. Because sometimes when we treat the lady, she comes back within 2-3 weeks, she's back with the same problem, unless we treated both. And sometimes men tend to be very unfair to ladies. Anasema mimi sina shida, sitakula hii dawa. Very difficult. But it's because you want to prevent recurrence of this problem. Proper treatment of UTI. Can it be transmitted to baby? No. UTI, unless the cause is different, because even gonorrhea can cause UTI, and you are pregnant and then the baby is born when you have not been treated for the gonorrhea, then the baby may have problems. And usually the eyes. I don't know whether you have seen, at some point the Ministry of Health came up with the idea that all babies born, they are given some tetracycline cream in the eyes. And that was brought because the fact that people, when they get infection and the baby is born vaginally, then the child may have that infection in the eyes and cause blindness. So to prevent that, they were giving every child akizaliwa anapewa hiyo cream or ointment, eye ointment. So far so good. Many women have heavy bleeding aiding with removal of uterus. Why? I think I've answered that one, isn't it? I said it's because of fibroids, and fibroids treatment yake ni removal of the fibroids, all removal of the uterus. I have some extra questions. After screening HPV, nafaa tena kuwa screened for how long? Na mzee wangu ni wa kutangatanga. What? That's you see the problems I was talking about. That is a man who you should bring to the bishop. I were delivered from you kutangatanga. Now your problems will be solved, isn't it? And or even bring your husband to the doctor. I were advised, yeah, because that's a big problem. Screening is done once a year for pap smear, what we call pap smear. I was going to talk about it when it comes to cancers. And it is done, if it is normal, then you wait for 1 year or 2, sometimes even 2. Pap smear is something we do because some people don't know what we do. Here, on the cervix, we remove some cells with a brush, but you don't even feel it. Sikitu unasikia pain. And then we put it on a glass slide. That glass slide is what is sent to the lab, and it comes back saying whether you are likely to have cancer of the cervix or not. Usually it has stages. Those stages come from far. They can tell us when the cells are showing from far that Shunga, this lady, she might get cancer of the cervix. And it's very important. Ladies, please make sure that you have your pap smear done once a year, and you'll prevent yourself from having cancer of the cervix. It's a very debilitating disease, very difficult to treat when it is already spread. Extremely disgusting for us. There is a word in Kenyatta, we used to call it 1D. Is full of those cases. People from all over. All over the country they come. It's very devastating. And it's not good to get it. Sasa mwingine anasema kwa nini mama akizeeka urine inajitoa? The reason is particularly ladies who have given birth to several children. Several, I mean from 4 going 5, 6, 7. Our mothers, during our mother's age, they used to get even 10. I have a lady, we had a lady in our village who had 14. 14 children, one mother. And what happens is that when you give birth to a child who is like 3 kilograms, sometimes 3.5, sometimes 4 kilograms, that baby, every baby passes through the vaginal route. And what happens is that the muscles that hold the vagina out there becomes very weak. Because every child amepita hapo. Hivyo. So when they become very weak, you'll find the uterus, because it's held by the same muscles, huku, you'll find it starts going down. Okay? We call it prolapse, uterine prolapse. And sometimes, if it is very bad, and I have seen a few cases like that, utakuta uterus hapa nje hapa. The cervix, iko nje. And it's because the muscles here cannot hold. So you'll find the urine it comes out by itself because of the weakness. In other words, they don't have the sphincter to hold. The way you'll feel you are almost going for a long corner, you can hold. You know what helps you to hold? It's called a sphincter. Your sphincter becomes very weak. Hakuna break. Yeah, so that is what causes that urine inajitoa tu. But when we see cases like that, instead of opening kwa tumbo, tunatoanga hiyo uterus from down here. It's quite an easy operation. Unaitorea huko chini. And one time I did one like that of a 90-year-old. And she withstood the dawa ya theater na tukafanya na akaenda nyumbani. 90-year-old. So age will not be a factor. Okay? I think I have done with the questions. We go on now with the rest, isn't it? Okay. And I hope it will be very fast. I said we are going to start with mental health. Mental health. That's the topic. Mental health, depression, anxiety,